As bass anglers, there are two pitfalls that we often fall into. One, we spend a lot of time searching for that perfect bait, and two, we end up fishing a lot of dead water just where the fish are not at. This particular bay right here, right now, is a perfect example. I was filming through here and there wasn't one fish in this bay. There wasn't a panfish, there wasn't a bass, a small bass, carp, catfish. There was nothing in here, yet angler after angler was coming into this area and casting away. And the sad thing was, is they had zero chance of catching anything because the bass just were not here right now. So the real key is we have to locate them, and you may be thinking, well, how do we go about doing that? But the nice thing is when we find them, there's a range of lures that are going to work. For example, if bass are in a bottom feeding mode, they are focusing on the bottom, there are so many options that we can use, and the perfect bait for one angler may not be the perfect bait for another one, but it's okay because you're fishing on the bottom and there's a good chance you're both going to get some bites. But this key for searching is not only do we need to be in a searching mindset, but we have to do it efficiently, which doesn't always mean fast. Let me give you a perfect example. So one of the first things we have to do as anglers is decipher the depth that the bass are using. How deep are they holding at this particular moment? I love to come into an area and go ahead and fish it parallel and make 3 or 4 casts with the same lure at different depths. So I tie on something that works multiple parts of the water column efficiently, let's say a little swim bait or a swim jig, and I'll cast up shallow, a little bit deeper, and a little bit deeper, and try to narrow down where the bass are holding. And if I find they're using that 10 to 12 foot range, well, odds are that's going to be something that I can use and transfer to other parts of the lake. The next part of that efficiency is we have to use lures that do not waste our time. In other words, what I'm saying is we can't be picking off junk off our lures every cast or every other cast. So things like your Texas rigs, swimming worms like a swim jig I mentioned earlier, one lure can cover all parts of that water column pretty quickly, and it can come through a variety of cover and structure without getting junk on it and getting hung up all that much. Maybe I'm swimming a worm and I go ahead and I get one to reveal where they're hanging out. I catch that fish, even if it's a little one. Now I go back through and work that area with something different. So we need to keep this mindset that the searching lure is not necessarily always the one that we are going to go ahead and use once we find them. We can, but there's probably a better option based on what we located. And finally, we need to change our mindset when it comes to this searching process. It's not always about catching one. We like it to be about catching one, but what we're really looking for is a clue. For example, this could be starting to see signs of life. Maybe there's panfish suddenly there, or there's minnows suddenly there, or there's like a great blue heron on the shoreline. You see some turtles in the area. When you start to see that life, really focus on what you're doing because you're starting to get close. Next, the slightest bump, even if we don't catch the fish, could reveal something pretty major going on in that particular area. So always make sure that when you get that one bump, just don't, oh man, there was one there and I didn't catch it, and you just move on. Check that area out a little bit more. And that leads right into the next thing that we often do is catch one fish, catch 2 fish, and just keep moving. We leave so many bass uncaught. We leave so many numbers not accounted for because we do that. We catch 1, catch 2, and keep moving. Make sure you work that spot over carefully with a variety of lures before you move on. And speaking of lures that do a great job of mopping up once we find some fish, the Ned rig is incredible. If you'd like to watch a video that talks about my favorite Ned rig retrieve, go ahead and check this one out right here. And make sure to go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.